Well, hello there, welcome. Once upon a time, there was a 16-year-old boy named Brian, and he had a dream of becoming a basketball player. Despite all his hard work, he just couldn't secure a spot on his school's team, the Eagles. Instead, he found himself tasked with carrying the players' water bottles. One day, Brian observes his idol Kevin completely take over a basketball game, racking up points and guiding his team to an impressive win. Motivated by Kevin's incredible performance, Brian vows to himself that he will achieve greatness like Kevin one day. Brimming with determination, he starts to practice, yet each time he attempts to score, he finds himself falling short. As Kevin steps off the court, he is met by a throng of reporters and enthusiastic fans, all eager to celebrate his victory. Alan, his agent, assists him in breaking free from the throng. The next day at school, Brian is talking with his best friend Mitch when he spots a new girl named Isabel passing by. His heart races, and a grin spreads across his face uncontrollably. Isabel returns his smile. Later, during lunch, Brian can't seem to look away from her. Mitch cautions him not to get too caught up, as the entire school views him as a loser. Brian is filled with confidence, convinced that Isabel, being new, is unaware of his reputation. With unwavering resolve, he makes up his mind to approach her without delay. Then a prankster named Connor plays a video on the cafeteria TV, showcasing Brian's hilarious attempt to jump like Kevin using a trampoline, only to end up hilariously tangled in the net. The whole cafeteria erupts in laughter, leaving Brian feeling utterly humiliated. Overcome with embarrassment, he slips away quietly, while Isabel can't help but feel a pang of sympathy for him. That evening, as Brian relaxes at home, his father unexpectedly presents him with 2 tickets to a basketball game. Brian twirls and leaps with pure joy, filling the room with his exuberant energy. Soon, he and his father head to the game, and Brian is absolutely thrilled to see Kevin playing spectacularly. As the break unfolds, the host excitedly reveals that one fortunate spectator will have the opportunity to take a shot at a basketball for a chance to win a staggering $20,000 prize. To Brian's astonishment, his father's name is announced. Yet, as the encouraging father he truly is, he passes the chance to Brian, allowing him to take the shot. As Brian steps onto court, he catches sight of Connor in the audience, poised to capture his downfall. Nervously, Brian hurls the ball, but instead of scoring, it collides with the team's mascot. Feeling embarrassed, Brian begins to walk away, only to bump into Kevin. Kevin offers his support, signs a basketball for him, and shares with Brian that dedication can be just as impactful as natural ability. As Kevin hands him the ball, an unusual energy flows from it to Brian. The following morning, Brian tunes into the radio and learns that Kevin's performance after the break yesterday was dismal, leading to his team's defeat. Brian feels a touch of sadness upon hearing this. Brian felt a little low, yet he put on his clothes and made his way to school. That evening, he and Mitch attended a fair, where they unexpectedly encountered Connor and Isabel. Connor was determined to win a large teddy bear for Isabel. He tossed the ball toward the corner net, but despite his efforts, he just couldn't make the shot, no matter how many times he tried. Upon witnessing this, Brian and Mitch burst into hearty laughter. Frustrated, Connor snatched Brian's ball and dared him to take a shot. Brian braced himself for embarrassment, but when he threw the ball, it struck the target flawlessly. Everyone around was absolutely stunned, believing it was merely a lucky shot. However, as Brian continued to hit the target over and over, the crowd was left in awe. Frustrated, Connor stormed off. Meanwhile, Brian ended up winning the teddy bear, which he graciously gave to Isabel. They exchanged a firm handshake and strolled through the fair side by side. Meanwhile, Kevin found himself facing challenges during basketball practice, struggling to sink his usual shots. Both he and Alan were quite concerned, particularly because Kevin had suffered a significant defeat in his most recent game. Alan attempted to console him, reminding him that everyone experiences setbacks. Meanwhile, Brian had been practicing at home and noticed an incredible improvement in his skills overnight. The next day, Brian arrived at school in a basketball jersey and made his way to the court. The coach, taken aback by his appearance in a jersey, gently reminded him that he was only the water boy. Brian shared his desire to audition for the team. At first, the coach said no, but after Brian kept asking, he finally got the opportunity to show what he could do. He faced off against Connor, the captain of the team. Brian's shots were absolutely flawless. Everyone was completely blown away by his sudden talent. Everyone was baffled by the rapid improvement he had shown. Even the coach took to the field against him, yet Brian still managed to outshine him. With a sense of admiration for Brian's remarkable skills, the coach made the decision to include him on the team at last. In the days that followed, Brian participated in multiple matches against rival schools, guiding his team to triumph. He swiftly gained popularity, and all the students at school were eager to befriend him. Brian grew closer to Isabel, and before long, the two fell in love. Conversely, Kevin's performance kept declining, leading to intense media criticism that tarnished his reputation. Alan did everything he could to support Kevin, even reaching out to his mother for encouragement, yet nothing appeared to make a difference. One day, Kevin found himself on set, shooting a commercial for basketball shoes. However, he struggled to dribble even a little bit. After countless unsuccessful attempts, the director finally conceded defeat and decided to take Kevin out of the advertisement. Later, Alan, feeling frustrated, was watching TV when he came across a report about Kevin's declining career. Frustrated, he switched the channel, only to find a news story about Brian. People began calling Brian the next Kevin Durant. That's when Alan recalled that just 4 weeks prior, this boy couldn't even make a basket. What an incredible tale it was. At one point, Brian had actually thrown the ball an impressive 4 kilometers away. Alan started to analyze Brian's game footage and discovered that Brian's playing style mirrored Kevin's perfectly. This led Alan to wonder if perhaps the abilities of Kevin and Brian had somehow exchanged places. He shared his theory with Kevin, detailing how Brian, once an ordinary player, had transformed into the standout talent of the junior tournament. Nevertheless, Kevin brushed off the notion, believing Alan had lost his senses. The next day, Alan brought Kevin to Brian's school and made the introductions. He encouraged them to spend the day together, wishing that Kevin's abilities would somehow come back. Alan proposed they get together since they were both outstanding basketball players. Brian and Kevin spent the day talking and even shared a meal. However, despite their time together, nothing changed, leaving Alan feeling frustrated. Brian's ego started to inflate, and during games, he fixated exclusively on scoring baskets, neglecting to pass to his teammates. Even as his team continued to secure victory after victory, his friends felt a sense of disappointment, realizing that basketball was meant to be a collective endeavor. Meanwhile, Kevin faced a tough battle in his match, finding it impossible to land a single shot. Fans and the media ridiculed him, as they had never witnessed him perform so badly. That evening, Brian hosted a lively party to celebrate his success, inviting a multitude of guests. Nevertheless, Isabel was not happy. She realized that Brian had changed. He was no longer the kind, humble boy he once was. She made an effort to get Brian to chat with her privately, but he seemed reluctant to part ways with his new cool friends. Isabel, feeling frustrated, decided to leave the party. Shortly thereafter, Alan arrived and took Brian aside for a conversation. He explained that Brian and Kevin had somehow swapped abilities. However, Brian refused to believe him. Alan pressed him, inquiring, "How did you transform from an average player to a superstar overnight? Were you rehearsing in your dreams?" Alan urged Brian to return Kevin's talent, but Brian firmly refused, stating, "I didn't take anything on purpose, and I'm not giving it back." Before departing, Alan warned Brian that exploiting another person's talent unjustly was wrong, and that he was misleading everyone. The following day at school, the coach rallied the Eagles team and enthusiastically declared that they were just 1 game away from claiming the championship title. The team burst into jubilant cheers. Later, as he was riding his bike, Brian spotted a poster of Kevin. He began to feel a pang of guilt, coming to terms with just how poorly Kevin had been performing and the toll it had taken on his reputation. Brian realized it was the right moment to return Kevin's talent, so he reached out to Alan to share his decision. Brian and Alan made their way to the court, where Kevin was busy practicing. They urged him, "Come on, take your skills back." But Kevin wasn't willing to accept the idea at first. Yet, when Brian showcased his skills, even executing Kevin's iconic move, something that had only been perfected by Kevin, Kevin's surprise was unmistakable. Afterward, Kevin made numerous efforts to reclaim his abilities. He utilized the same ball, echoed the same words, yet nothing shifted, leaving all 3 of them feeling frustrated. Later, Brian visited Isabel's house to express his apologies. Despite her lingering upset, she ultimately found it in her heart to forgive him and welcomed him inside. Brian then shared the entire tale of how he and Kevin had exchanged powers, yet Isabel was skeptical at first. In an effort to persuade her, Brian presented the video from that fateful day. At that instant, when the ball struck the mascot, a realization sparked in Brian's mind, prompting him to dash out. Brian made his way directly to the basketball court, where Kevin was in the midst of a game. He noticed that Kevin's team still hadn't scored. Brian rushed onto the court, excitement bubbling within him as he informed Kevin that he had discovered the way to restore his powers. He clarified that the ball needed to strike the mascot first, just as it had on that memorable day. Brian struck the mascot, sending it tumbling to the ground, and then both he and Kevin grasped the ball tightly. Kevin expressed, "I wish I had Brian's talent," to which Brian responded, "Hard work can beat talent." In an instant, an energy transfer took place, flowing from Brian to Kevin, indicating that their plan had succeeded. As the game progressed, Kevin began to play exceptionally, sinking shot after shot, leaving the crowd in sheer amazement. His team ultimately triumphed, and Brian was absolutely elated. The next day arrived, and it was Brian's turn for his final match. However, deep down, he sensed that he wouldn't be able to perform like he had in the past. As the game kicked off, Brian faced challenges, stumbling as he had in the past, raising concerns for his coach. Then Kevin and Alan showed up, which only heightened Brian's nerves. However, Brian recalled the guidance Kevin had given him. Dedication can't surpass natural ability. Brian gathered his teammates and expressed that, since he wasn't at his best, they would need to come together, leaning on one another's strengths. Fueled by fresh enthusiasm and collaboration, they re-entered the game. Brian's team performed admirably, yet in the last 10 seconds, they found themselves just 2 points shy. Brian received the ball and launched a shot for 3 points. Fortunately, the ball flew directly into the hoop. Brian's team triumphed in the match, all thanks to his incredible clutch shot. The team hoisted Brian onto their shoulders in a jubilant celebration, and as Kevin said his goodbyes, he exited the court.